aircraft carrier Eisenhower in the Red Sea in response to US and UK strikes on Yemen. Moscow slams US allowing Ukraine to strike inside Russia with Western weapons, says NATO countries had entered a new round of escalating tension and they're doing this purposely. South Africa's ruling ANC on course to lose its 3-decade-old absolute majority. Coalition on the cards, 85% of the votes counted. The ANC has won only 41% of the vote. It is time for the biggest game in club football this year. London hosts a footballing party as Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund touch down for the Champions League final. The seventh and final phase of voting in the Indian elections is underway in 57 parliamentary constituencies across 7 states, ahead of results for the entire process on the 4th of June. Here's a look at the highlights for today and where things stand.
The 18th Indian national election is in its 7th and final phase. The electoral fight is for 545 seats in the lower house of the Indian Parliament. Representatives of the House are elected directly on 543 seats. The other 2 are appointed by the President. 487 seats were contested in the first 6 phases. The 7th phase will see voting on 57 more seats across 8 states and a union territory. Let's put this on a map. The states of Himachal Pradesh and Punjab will see voting for all their 4 and 13 constituencies respectively. The Union Territory of Chandigarh will also have voting in this phase. Parts of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Orissa, West Bengal and Jharkhand have already voted in earlier phases. Let's look at some of the key faces, starting with the biggest player in the political arena. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be contesting against Congress leader Ajay Rai in Varanasi. Modi had won the seat in 2014 and 2019 and is now eyeing his 3rd term from the seat. Interestingly, his rival Ajay Rai was once with the BJP but joined the Congress in 2012. Next, BJP candidate Kangana Ranaut. The actress turned politician is making a debut from Himachal Pradesh's Mandi constituency. She is facing Congress candidate and the royal scion Vikramaditya Singh. Coming to Punjab's Amritsar, where former allies BJP and the Shiromani Akali Dal have parted ways. Both are trying to snatch the seat from Congress's incumbent Gurjeet Aujla. Interestingly, the Sikh party has fielded a Hindu, Anil Joshi, and the BJP has named a Sikh, Taranjeet Singh Sandhu, a former Indian ambassador to the US. And lastly, senior BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad is fighting to retain his Patna seat in Bihar. He is banking on his own and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity. Congress has fielded Anshul Avijit, the son of former Lok Sabha Speaker Meera Kumar, against him. Coming to logistics, 1 million polling stations have been set up for the elections, with 15 million polling agents and 5.5 million voting machines. Voting starts at 7 a.m. local time and ends at 6 p.m. Post that, exit polls will be published, predicting how the next parliament will look like. If it happens to be your turn to vote, go out and cast your vote. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And for more on this, we're now being joined by correspondent Dharamjot Kaur. She's joining us live from Chandigarh. A very good morning to you, Dharamjot. All 13 seats in Punjab and lone Chandigarh seat goes to polls today. What is the mood like on the ground and how preparations looking like? You're joining us live from the polling booth there in Chandigarh.
Well, Raisha, it is a good morning here in Chandigarh. As you can see behind me, a decent voter turnout so far. Chandigarh has been one of those union territories that has never disappointed in terms of people coming out to cast their ballot. You know, in 2019, we saw about over 74.5% as the voter turnout, which was one of the highest across the country. And similar results are also expected this time around as elections are currently underway. Now, of course, heat, we've been saying, has been playing a spoil sport in the past few phases, and it has impacted voter turnout to a certain extent. But local authorities and officials here have been ensuring that they've made all sorts of logistical preparations, including drinking water, seating arrangements, fans, coolers, etc., to ensure that people do not face any discomfort when it comes to exercising their ballot. So that's the hope for today, Raisha, that more and more people will turn out in the last phase, and that the voters here in Punjab and Chandigarh will not disappoint.
Absolutely, Dharamjot. Also talked to us about, with no poll alliances being formed in Punjab, talked to us about the four-way contest between Congress, BJP, AAP and the Shiromani Akali Dal, something which has not been seen before 1989.
Well, you're absolutely right, Raisha. This time the contest in Punjab is going to be a very interesting one, especially because, the age-old BJP Akali Dal alliance is no more intact. They're both contesting independently, as is the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party, which is very interesting because Congress and AAP have been an alliance in Delhi. They're also in alliance on the Chandigarh seat, but as far as Punjab is concerned, they are contesting alone. And this might have something to do with the fact that the Aam Aadmi Party, being the state government, in Punjab, wants to kind of, take that power move further and see how far they can go in terms of their popularity. Whether or not that works out for the Aam Aadmi Party is going to be a big question, because there are murmurs of dismay and frustration with the party as far as their unkept promises at the state level are concerned. So we really have to see how this goes for the Aam Aadmi Party and also for the ruling BJP, because the 2020-2021 farmers protest were a big movement. It's also going to be one of the biggest reasons that will have an impact on the ballot in terms of how people vote, since aftermath of those protests and ongoing, agitations in different parts of Punjab and Haryana will continue, to have some sort of an influence over the ballot that is being casted today. So it's very unpredictable for the state of Punjab. There is no saying which way this is going to go, and a lot of past trends are going to be broken. That is the expectation that a lot of analysts and even voters on the ground have, Raisha.
Dharamjot, you speak of the farmers' protests there, which may have a control of the ballot there. Also talk to us about some of the key issues that dominates the polls today in Punjab.
Well, Raisha, speaking of the farmers' protest, of course, this is an agricultural state. So agricultural issues that have been, not just overnight issues, but, problems that have been piling on for years and decades, they are definitely at the forefront in terms of the issues and problems that voters are facing here in the state. The water crisis in the state is also a big issue in terms of a depleting water table, given the fact that this is an agricultural land, and that is also one of the biggest issues that they face over here in the agricultural belt of Punjab. Among that, there are other things including security concerns, certain issues and concerns around separatist and secessionist, candidates that are also contesting this election. But those are minor issues, since they haven't really gotten a lot of traction in the past few months or the couple of years, in fact. So the biggest issue does remain, the water table, the depleting water table and the agriculture crisis that is at the forefront, given how this is one of the biggest occupations of the state. Raisha.
Right, Dharamjot. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We'll, of course, be tracking the polls today in Punjab with you very closely. Moving on. 8 months into the Israel-Gaza war, there's a fresh proposal to end the conflict. US President Joe Biden on Friday said that Israel has now offered a new ceasefire deal, a new roadmap towards permanent peace in Gaza, further adding that it's time to end the ongoing war. The three-part proposal put out by US President Joe Biden includes plans for a ceasefire, surge in humanitarian aid, exchange of hostages, and also a post-war plan for Gaza. Well, it is a three-part proposal which begins with immediate 6-week ceasefire in which the Israeli Defense Forces would withdraw from the populated areas of Gaza. The first phase would also include the exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners and supply of 600 aid trucks every day. In the second phase, Israel and Hamas would negotiate terms for a permanent ceasefire to end the hostilities. And the final phase would include a major reconstruction plan for Gaza with international support. Now, Biden called the proposal a decisive moment and an opportunity to prove whether Hamas really wants a ceasefire deal or not, further urging Hamas to take the deal.
This is truly a decisive moment. Israel has made their proposal. Hamas says it wants a ceasefire. This deal is an opportunity to prove whether they really mean it. Hamas needs to take the deal. For months, people all over the world have called for a ceasefire. Now it's time to raise your voices and demand that Hamas come to the table, agrees to this deal, and end this war that they began.
After Biden's remarks, Hamas issued a statement saying that it welcomed Biden's call for a permanent ceasefire and will consider it positively. The militant group had earlier informed mediators that it would agree a comprehensive truce agreement, including a hostage prisoner swap, if Israel halts its aggression. However, Netanyahu further clarified that the transition from phase 1 to phase 2 was conditional and crafted to allow Israel to maintain its war aims, which is to eliminate Hamas and return of all the hostages. Now, Netanyahu's office in a statement said that, and I'm quoting here, the Prime Minister authorized the negotiating team to put forward an outline for achieving this goal while insisting that the war will not end until all of its goals are achieved, including the return of hostages and elimination of Hamas. Well, earlier on Friday, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh accused Israel of using negotiations as a cover to continue its aggression. An earlier hostage proposal put forward this year called for the release of sick, elderly and wounded hostages in Gaza in exchange for a 6-week ceasefire coupled with aid delivery in Gaza. However, that proposal had fallen through after Israel refused to agree to Hamas's demand for a permanent end to the ongoing war and then ramped up an assault on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
On Friday, U.S. President Joe Biden addressed two issues, starting with the conviction of former President Donald Trump, emphasizing that the verdict against him upheld the principles of law and that, quote, no one is above the law. Not surprisingly, he criticized the former president's claims of a rigged verdict. Then Biden shifted focus to the Middle East, urging Hamas to accept a new ceasefire deal from Israel, including a 6-week ceasefire, prisoner release, and reconstruction efforts for Gaza. The U.S. will support diplomatic resolutions and aid in rebuilding Gaza's infrastructure. Of course, Biden's comments come at a time when polls show he's in deep trouble, notably with younger voters, regarding his support for Israel in the Hamas-Israel war. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION The World.
To get you more on this, we're now being joined by Glenn Carl, who is a former national intelligence officer from the CIA and national security and foreign policy expert. He's joining us live from Boston. Welcome to the show, Mr. Carl. I'll first start by asking you that US President Joe Biden has said that Israel has offered a comprehensive new ceasefire deal to Hamas. It is a three-part proposal. While the plan includes many of the details from previously ultimately failed round of talks, how different is this proposal from the previous ones offered?
Well, I think you teed it up well. I don't know that it is profoundly different, actually. I think what is different is that President Biden and the United States are, by announcing this and calling for the ceasefire and the peace plan, increasing the pressure on Israel as well as on Hamas. Neither side in the plan would get everything that it is seeking, which is the situation and really any negotiation that is agreed upon. But to me, it addresses or seeks to address to some extent President Biden's domestic pressures from the Democrats, really, to bring more pressure to bear on Israel to stop the war. And yet it doesn't go as far as Israel wants, because it will allow, or it's mute on who will rule Gaza after the plan is implemented, if ever were implemented. So I see it as a domestic step, but a step to increase pressure on Israel also. They call it Israel's plan, and parts of the Israeli government support this kind of initiative. But the far right within the cabinet of Netanyahu already has said that they will not stop until Hamas is eliminated. And Netanyahu himself has said that. So it's pressuring, addressing domestic American concerns, pressuring Israel a bit, and offering no one everything, which is probably wise, because that's not negotiation otherwise.
Right. Mr. Carl, you speak of how this proposal does not offer everything to all the parties here. Do you think that this proposal, to become a deal, it has a higher likelihood of success than the previous ones?
I don't, really. Netanyahu has been clear that his objective and the coalition members on whom he relies to stay in power, which are the far right parties, have said that the war will not end until Hamas is eliminated. I've assessed from before Israel went into Gaza that, and many others have too, that it's not possible to destroy Hamas unless they virtually kill, well, not every Palestinian, but many more than they have already, which would be catastrophic not only for the Palestinians, but for the Israelis too, as we're seeing progressive loss of support worldwide for Israel as the war continues. So I don't really see, and then Hamas has, at least the leadership, interest in continuing the war too, out of vengeance, which is, I think, a hideously short-sighted and inhuman objective, simply to try to continue killing Israelis. But that seems to be motivating Hamas's leaders. In any event, we get reports to that effect. So I do not, to answer your question shortly, I don't see too much probability that this will be accepted, but it does increase pressure on everybody, which is a good thing.
Right, Mr. Carl, just to add to the point you made there, that Netanyahu has been adamant that the war can only end after Hamas is eliminated. And it also said that the transition from phase 1 to phase 2 can only happen. It is a very conditional aspect there. But thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on WION with your insights.
Anytime.
Moving on. Former U.S. President Donald Trump may be the first former president convicted as a felon. But Wall Street billionaires are rushing to back him for the White House. Another type of jury convened at the luxurious Pierre Hotel on Fifth Avenue, which had already rendered a decision on Trump. This was even before 12 New Yorkers labeled Donald Trump a felon. The rich Wall Streeters at the PA reasoned Trump would still be their presidential nominee regardless of the jury's guilty verdict. The meeting at the PA 16 days before Thursday's landmark decision revealed the American finance's cool calculations. That is, from lifelong supporters to reluctant allies. More U.S. business and financial leaders are supporting a Trump restoration. A big reason, in a word, is money. Trump has promised to cut taxes for the wealthy and eliminate regulations. Joe Biden wants the opposite. Well, the gilded fundraiser at the PA reached deep pockets in Manhattan, even as Trump's landmark trial was unfolding in a drab courthouse downtown. Less than 2 weeks after that gathering, without waiting to learn the jury's decision, private equity and a longtime Republican donor Steven Schwarzman announced that he was getting behind Trump again. The Blackstone co-founder is among the 40 richest people in the world with a $41 billion fortune. On Thursday, hours before the verdict, another prominent New York billionaire, hedge fund investor Bill Ackman, was seen backing the former U.S. president too. But the question being, how are voters reacting to this extraordinary turn of events? That remains uncertain. And with that, we call it a wrap. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching WION The World is One. Stay tuned.
This week on Melt, awards, elephants, masters of creativity and the Master Blaster himself. Catch all the action from the 2024 Curious Creative Awards with me, Pamela Butoria.
See, when I was playing cricket, the priority was to stay focused only on the game and nothing else.
This week on Inside South Asia. Two tragic fire tragedies in India draw focus to safety norms frequently flouted, with profiteering taking priority. In Afghanistan, deadly mines laid over 4 decades of war claim innocent lives. Record heat wave in North India to cyclone ferocity in Bangladesh and the threat of rising seas in the Maldives. This and much more on Inside South Asia.
Yoga and Ayurveda is our cultural heritage and is a science. Last year on 21st June, across the globe, 235 million people participated into these activities.
Yoga has many benefits, such as it connects your mind, body and soul together.
We're having an initiative now in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be a national move. Everybody can practice yoga even if they're sitting in an office. Yoga is the best gift you can give to your health ever.
This week on the West Asia Post, global outrage over Israeli strikes on Rafah that killed 45 civilians living in safe zones. The humanitarian crisis worsens as innocent people are pushed to the brink. When will this harrowing ordeal end? Also on the show, we talk about the future of Syria and the burdens of Syrian refugees in West Asia. Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Kapadia's All We Imagine Is Light scripts history at the Cannes Film Festival. We look at the Indian filmmaker's journey in movies. Decode method dressing, the new buzzword for film and fashion lovers. And check out a list of hand-picked films you can watch this Pride Month. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times, only on WION E-Club.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25